So it's me, Sue Costello. Here I am at Compound Media. And it's 9/11. And I want to take 1 second to acknowledge that. And also to tell you that I want to thank Anthony for letting me have this show. Because never in a million years did I ever think that Anthony would be the one that would give me the forum to be able to run my mouth. And I also want a full disclosure. The only reason why I have this show is because HR made them. No, I don't even think they have HR here. So, all right, here's my show, Simmer Down. So I've been like working and talking about equal pay and talking about being a woman and putting myself out there. And I've been doing my career for 30 years. And there has been sexism. There's been sexism, but nobody wants to hear it. When I go on stage, I'm like, oh, nobody wants to hear that a woman's oppressed. Everybody's ass cheeks squeezed together. They're like, they ain't trying to hear it. So I'm like, okay, how do I overcome? I want to transcend my own anxiety, my own anger. Like, I'm sick of fighting. I'm so sick of fighting. And I feel like the whole world is fighting. So I'm like, how do I transcend my own anger? How do I transcend my own anxiety? How do I transcend everything that was done to me so that I can be for the greater good? How can I do that? Okay. So then I was like, okay, let me see if I can do this. So I start talking about equal pay. I start becoming very vocal. And then all of a sudden, all these white men were coming to me and they're like, Sue, you got to read about this guy. You got to read about this guy. He has scientific evidence that women should not get paid equally. And now, if I was triggered, I would be so mad because I would be like, why are these guys telling me that there's a guy that has scientific evidence that I shouldn't get paid equal when that's all I want to do is get paid equal? So I was like, simmer down, Sue, and listen. Because that's what I want to do, everybody. I want to bring back listening. This show is going to be about how we can put a pause in between speak and cancel. Everybody's talking about the cancel culture. Everybody's talking about how comedy's dying because nobody can say anything. So I'm like, well, what if I just put one little pause in between the cancel culture? So I decided, why don't I create a little like incubator? This is going to be like a comedy incubator because comics are prophets. And I feel like we need prophets right now. And we need some sort of structure. So I'm like, okay. And everybody, the only way that anybody's ever really experienced me is through the eye of a masculine show. So I'm like, well, what if I just turn the lens a tiny bit? What if I just become the boss? So that's very pro-woman. And what about if I just have the men on and let them express themselves? And so I took it even further. So I was like, let me investigate this guy. Let me investigate this guy that's with the evidence about the equal pay. Because I kept saying to myself, Sue, if you want to grow, you can't just see it through your own lens. Because people are going to call you a victim. They're going to be like, you sound like a victim. I'm the furthest thing from a victim. But if I present as a victim, that's how people are going to perceive me. So I was like, how are we going to change? And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'll simmer down first. And I researched this guy. So I was like, all right, let me not get mad at these guys because I feel like I'm hearing so much from these men that they're reacting. So we had the Me Too movement. And I said, after the Me Too movement, we're going to have a horrific backlash. We just are. And I feel like that's how evolution works. You have something rise up, and then you have a huge backlash, and then it kind of evens out. So I'm like, what if I just keep going and try to find where the even keel is? What if I stop reacting and I find the even keel? What if I start listening to these guys? What if, even on Twitter when they announce my show, people are like, she's repulsive. She's disgusting. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I don't want to be repulsive. I don't wake up every morning and go, how can I repulse people? Let me see. And I'm like, I want to figure out how I can get past that. How do I get past the fact that somebody thinks I'm repulsive? And they just put it on Twitter. So a lot of people just react on Twitter. They just say what they want to say because whatever. Maybe I am repulsive to some extent. So I'm like, what if I just make a live incubator? What if I become the science experiment? What if I actually do a show where I find out if I'm really repulsive or not? What if I actually do a show where we see if a woman can really be the boss and if I can tolerate being around men and that men can tolerate me and that we can kind of find that middle ground? Where can we find that middle ground to get back to listening? Bell bottoms go out of style, right? And then they come back around. Well, I'm bringing back listening. What if we try to listen? Like, what if we do in live action in this incubator? Like, I didn't even know it was going to turn into this. My original idea was not this. But then I thought, you know what? Where are you going, Sue? You're going to Compound Media. What are they saying? They're saying that you're repulsive. They're saying that when you were on Anthony's show that everybody hated you. And I'm like, well, why are they giving me a show then? And then I thought it even further. And I thought, well, if I'm going into Compound Media, I have to consider the people on Compound Media. They're paying their subscribers, right? So I have to consider them. So if they find something about the fact that then maybe I need to adjust a little something. But they also have to give me a chance. See how it's going to be reflective of the world? Instead of everybody just yelling at each other and canceling them, because believe me, I open my act literally. I'm like, do you recognize me? I've been on every canceled show that's ever been on America. I'm on TV. Seriously. I had my own show, canceled. I was on Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, canceled. Compound Media could get canceled now afterwards because I'm on here. So I was like, what if we just like do a human, and I was talking to the comics outside about it, and they were all getting all invigorated. And I'm like, oh, this might work. Where I let people talk and I have to listen to them. So I'll tell you the rules of the show after we go through this video. So what I did was, instead of getting mad at these guys, I heard them. My uncle's like a total macho man. And I'm like, Sue, you cannot cancel these guys. They even came to me about Louis. The New York Times came to me about Louis C.K. And they were like, do you have anything about Louis? Do you have anything about Louis? Now, I've never been on any shows with Louis. He's always said I was too pretty. That was his excuse. So whatever that is. And I could have been mad. I could have been upset that the guys get opportunities more than the women. But then I'm like, Sue, so I told the woman I didn't want to do that interview if that meant it was going to take Louis down. I didn't. And I'm not even afraid to say that anymore, because I feel like we've turned the corner where it's like the guys are coming back. Bill Burr's coming back. He did a special, and it's like, we hate feminism. And it's like, I don't want people to hate feminism. I want to find a middle ground somewhere. So I figure, what the hell? So what? What's the big deal? So you find me repulsive and I'm canceled. So I'll live. I've lived a million times over already. I'm like a cockroach. So I listened. So then I thought, well, if I can do it, then maybe people can watch me do it. And then they can go, oh, Sue's letting people tell her she's ugly and she's not attacking them. So maybe I can do that. And then we can mimic it on the world. And then that brings me to 9/11. So on 9/11, I was in New York City. I watched the towers go down from my apartment, and it was, I wouldn't even be able to put into words, and I can't even comprehend the firefighters, the cops, the families of the people, the tragedy that went on in our city. I can tell you, though, I went and gave blood that day, and the lines were so long, it was crazy. I went down and I handed out food to the first responders. And I never saw so much love and so much community in my entire life. So my whole career has been like this I'm doing like a human forensic live action study of human nature. Again, we're going to transcend the cancel culture while trying not to get canceled. It's like a survival of the fittest for comics. So when 9/11 happened, I thought, okay, this is really, really, really ugly, but people are being really loving. And I'm like, maybe things have to get ugly for people to finally feel like they deserve love. As corny as that sounds, that's what happened. And then I've always, for the past 18 years, in my lady brain, I've thought, we don't have anything new. 9/11 happened and it broke the fantasy. It broke it. The celebrity culture is broken. There's no fantasy anymore. I mean, people are like, we're sick of celebrities, talking about politics. And so I'm just trying to pay attention, simmer down, and listen to everybody and go, okay, so there's no more celebrity culture. And a celebrity culture makes you better than people. And isolation is one of the hugest killers in the country right now because of social media. And social media is going to come back around too. Just like this Me Too guy thing, we're going to simmer down and we're all going to settle down because it's not working the way it's working. And I believe in human nature. I believe in humanity that much. And I don't care. I don't care if you cancel me. I'm going to say it till the day I die. I believe in humanity that much because I've seen it and I've witnessed it. And if I can change, if I can stop fighting, literally, guys used to flirt with me and I'd be like, did you lose something over here? Like I was out of my mind. I had to untwist my own craziness and learn, like, how do I get beyond my own pain? So I did this with these guys telling me about the equal pay, right? So 9/11, we have nothing put in place. We have nothing put in place to how we should be living now. Nobody's giving us an example. We just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. So I'm like, all right, simmer down. Everybody simmer down and let's see. So I simmered down and I went to my computer and I Googled this guy. And I watched his video, not the one about equal pay. This is the first video that popped up, and we're going to start it now. It's 2 minutes long. I might interrupt it, but just bear with me. Bear with me and listen to what this guy's saying.
It's not okay for you to be a weak loser. It's not okay. And the reason it's not okay is because you could be way more than that. And it's a crime, an ethical crime, for you to allow all that necessary potential to go to waste.
Okay,
It hurts
so,
you.
So there's the potential. The potential is what? It's 9/11. 9/11 was horrific. The potential, the human potential is that we all came together. And everybody's tweeting today, like, why can't people be nice today? Why can't we be nice every day? Okay. Roll it.
It hurts your family. It hurts the world. Really, really, it does. And people think, oh, okay, I get it. And they do get it because they know at some level, if you turn around and you confront the suffering voluntarily, you find out that you are way tougher than you think. It's not that life is better than you think. Life is as harsh as you think. It might even be worse, but you are way tougher than you think if you turn around and confront it. And so then what you discover is that there's a spirit within you that can pursue something meaningful, that has the resilience and the strength to contend properly with the catastrophe of existence without becoming bitter. That's actually the central. So, and then I would say that's one of the central themes of 12 Rules for Life, is that make no mistake about it. Like the first noble truth of Buddhism, life is suffering.
Okay, stop right there. So listen, so that's what I finally started. I was like, so before 9/11, we had this fantasy of like, everything's great, everybody's perfect, we don't have any ugliness, celebrity's what we want money, we want houses, and what happened was the American dream fell apart. Now everybody's angry. They're like, we bought the American dream and the American dream isn't working. So now we need to find something. We need to find something cohesive. We need to find something where we can come together. Where do we find the humanity? Where do we find the equalizer? The equalizer is humanity. We are all human. So if we come together, we can turn all this energy around. So, you see, I agree with this guy. If I was just judgmental and I lived through my own sexism pain and I didn't listen to him and I hated these guys that were talking to me, I wouldn't have even seen that me and this guy agree on this. Go ahead, you can roll it.
It's worse than that because it's suffering contaminated by malevolence. That's the baseline. And so that's very pessimistic. But the optimistic part is that you are so damn tough you can actually not only deal with that, you can improve it. It's like, oh, well, that's a horrible situation. But it turns out that I'm armed for the task. Well, that's a great thing for people to know. And I think the fact that we're armed for the task is even more true than the fact that life is catastrophe contaminated by malevolence. We're stronger than things are terrible. And things are pretty terrible. So that means we're pretty damn strong.
Wow.
Yes, it's a very good thing to know. And it's not naive optimism. Yeah. It's a very different thing. It's like, no, things are terrible. They're brutal. And you are so damn tough, you can't believe it.
Okay, so right there, I saw the similarity there between malevolence and male violence. And I started thinking like, okay, this is why these guys are talking to me. And everybody's talking about all these guys with the anger and that they're shooting people. And my uncle's talking to me about how men are killing themselves. And I'm like, all right, we have to pay attention to that. We can't just get rid of a whole gender. We need men. I love men. I don't like the sexism that I suffered, but in the same breath, if I really look at my life, men have given me more opportunities in my career than anybody. So I'm like, I cannot be blind to that. And so what I'm learning how to do, or what I'm trying to train myself to do, what I want to do on this show, and I don't even care if the audience watches me. I don't even care if you call me out on my bullshit. Just, you can't call me names. And you can tell me if I'm lying. Because as an artist, what do we want to do? We want to express ourselves and we want to have fans. And we want you to pay for our gigs and everything. But we can't just do whatever we want and dismiss you, because that's what's happening in the country. Everybody feels dismissed. Everybody feels disrespected. And that's what they say. That's where murders happen. Most murders happen when somebody feels disrespected. So I'm like, what if I can just simmer down and not take it personally and see if I can move us forward? So then the rest of his video is this. This is what the rest of his video is.
You know, the idea that in some sense you're an eternal victim, well, there's a truth in that, given that nature is conspiring to destroy you and will be successful in the end, that you're undermined by your own society at the same time you're buttressed by it, and that you're a target of your own malevolence and that of others. I mean, so there's a triad of tragic and malevolent forces that are aimed directly at your heart, and that's always the case. But to not take responsibility for that and to attribute to that to a cosmic injustice or a sociological injustice in some sense that's aimed particularly at you, that's somehow the fault of others, is to miss the great adventure of your life. In that adoption of that adventurous mode of being, there's a deep meaning to be found. right? A meaning maybe that transcends just you, that involves your family and that involves your community and maybe even the destiny of humanity itself.
That's the definition of humanity. So that's what I'm trying to do here. That's it right there. That's what that guy and me agree. Me and that guy totally agree on that. So we want to go from malevolence to benevolence. How are we going to do that? So I was like, how can I do it? How about if I just be a live action person in this incubator and I sit here and I let people, so say you attack me, say you attack me, say you attack me, because that's all that's going on in the world right now. So I almost feel like it's the best time to be alive, because I used to be before, when everything was fake and phony, you'd be afraid that people would attack you because your phoniness would get exposed. But now I'm like, so what? So what if my phoniness gets exposed? Like, how can I help you? You think I'm repulsive? How can I help you? Because I don't want to be repulsive. And some people are like, oh, I hate her laugh. I'm like, okay, well, I can't change my laugh. But if I'm doing something that's causing you to feel discomfort, I want to hear what it is. And then I'll agree. So as artists, we need to consider people. I feel like as politicians, we do have one thing that we believe in, but we also have to consider the other people. Otherwise, we're disrespecting them. And the isolation gets bigger. So I'm going to try to create a community here, a little incubator where we learn from each other and we tolerate each other. And so here, by starting off with this guy, so I hate what he said about equal pay. I hate it. I don't agree. It brings up all my triggers. I want to get paid equal. I hate the way I've been treated in my business. But the same breath, I love that my guys' friends have helped me so much, and I've learned so much by going head on with them. Some of them last year were like, Sue, shut your mouth, and I listened to them. I was able to listen because I was like, oh, the old me would have been so wounded by people telling me to shut up that I wouldn't have been able to hear them, and I would have sabotaged myself. So I really opened my eyes, and I was like, the men are helping me a lot. So maybe as a woman, I can help the guys express themselves a little bit more, which brings us to our show. Okay, so we're going to have 3 guests, 3 men. So come on, tell me that doesn't take balls. It's me with 3 male comics, all right? And so there's going to be rules, but the only problem is I forgot my whistle. That's like the main part of the show, and I left it in my bag. So maybe somebody can get my whistle out of my bag. It's over by the desk. The whistle is going to be blown. It's called Simmah Down. So we're going to have this whole talk. I'm going to interview each comic by themselves. And then we're going to have a 4th act where we're all going to discuss it together. And you cannot fight. You cannot fight. When the comic is talking, the only way you can make something funny or interrupt is that you're adding to what they're saying, so you're forced to listen. And these are the rules, okay? The rules are, I blow the whistle. If you guys get out of hand, if you break any of these rules, I blow the whistle and I tell us to simmer down, and then we reset. So the first thing is the guest has to speak from the I perspective, not in the I perspective that it's ego, but in the I perspective of like how you perceive what we're going to talk about, the topics that we're going to talk about. And then I'm getting my whistle. Woo! Here it is. Look at that catch. That's like a dude. All right. So the guest must speak from the I perspective, and this is a whistle. You have to simmer down. The guys have to attach one feeling. And it's so funny because I was talking to a woman comic outside before the show, and she's married. And she's like, Sue, don't let them just say they're upset. She's like, get under it. Get under it. Get under what upset means. She's like, that's what I tell my husband. I'm like, what do you really feel? What do you really feel? Like, get under it. I'm like, okay. You cannot gaslight. Guys don't even know what gaslighting is. Gaslighting means you're pretending that something's not happening. So if you gaslight, you're going to get the whistle. No mansplaining. Mansplaining comes across as when you put your voice like this and you say, Sue, you got to do it this way, when I didn't ask you for advice, okay? No blaming. No blame game. No whataboutism. If we're having a direct conversation, you can't say, what about somebody else over there? We got to stay in the incubator and try to transcend the cancel culture, okay? No lying, no screaming, no name calling, no physical intimidation. And at the end of your interview, you have to tell me your solution. You can't just complain. We're not going to be victims. I want to know the solution to the way you perceive the world and how you see we can make it better, okay? Is everybody ready? We're going to play Simmer Down. All right, our first guest. I've been doing stand-up with him. He just corrected me. I thought it was 30 years. He said 26 years. So the thing about these guys is I've been around them they actually made me who I am. They trained me to be who I am. So this guy, he's hilarious. He's a genius. I love him. Welcome, Mike Britt, everybody. Come on. Jive talking. Sit right there. What's up, Mike?
What's up? That song is in neutral. Jive talking, that's negative already.
All right, what's up? Why is it negative? See, I'm being a human experiment. All right, tell me why. I'm open, I'm available, I'm not getting defensive. Tell me why.
What? I was just joking.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
See what they do? You guys wonder why I'm triggered and traumatized? Seriously, this is what happens to me every day. Every man in my life has done that to me. And I'm always like, oh, so what do I do? And they're like, so I'm just fucking with you. I'm completely triggered and traumatized every day, and I'm trying to transcend it. All right. So the reason, first of all, why I wanted you to be on here, Mike, is because the day they had the Women's March. So that video that you saw. So I want to show people, like, you don't love everything that anybody does. Like, some things you like and some things you don't like. The world thinking that we should all like one thing or get rid of them is insane. So the day that they had the Women's March, it was very emotional for me. It was very emotional for everybody. But I was working with you down at Greenwich Comedy Club, and I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I did when I wish I saved the video because I would play it right now, of you going on and on. You were so respectful. You were like, Sue, I'm totally for what you guys do, but who thought of the pussy hats?
Oh, the pussy hats. I forgot about that. Yeah. That didn't make no sense.
No, and you went on, and you were like, who came up with that idea? And you were like, what if I went in there and I raised my hand in the meeting? And you were like, what if I said, I have a great idea, why don't you women wear pussy hats?
Exactly. And that would have not been taken well.
Yes, why?
Pussy hats. Because it comes from a man.
Yes.
Sometimes y'all don't like stuff. You don't have a problem with it, but it has to come from you.
Yes, tell me more of that. Why? Why is that? Because I really do want to learn.
Because you feel like if it's coming from a guy, like it's coming from a negative or sexist type of perspective. But if it's coming from you, it's funny. Right?
But it really wasn't funny, right?
It was ridiculous. Like, that's totally opposite. You don't want pussy in the equation.
Because we want to be respected.
Yeah, so how you going to put pussy out there and then we supposed to be like, yeah, I see that. The pussy hat is what drew me in. Like, you talk about listening, I wasn't listening till I saw the pussy.
Which is exactly right, because men and the whole sex thing, right? How many times a day do you guys think about sex, right?
I think that's a bunch of bullshit, too.
You don't think about
Women
sex?
Y'all think about sex a lot, too.
I don't, because I'm too busy trying to simmer
I hate
down.
these stats about dumb stuff.
All right, tell me.
Who counted? What did you do? Sit there and talk to a bunch of men and a bunch of women and ask them how many times a day women think about. You don't think about sex during the day?
Yes, I do.
Exactly.
I do.
Why is it a man thing just to think?
Yes, and I sit on the train and I will lust again. I will lust after a man on the train. I will. I will lust in my whole body after a man on the train.
Absolutely. By the way, the repulsive, nasty tweets, those are mine.
Oh, you said?
Don't worry about that.
Wouldn't that be funny if Mike just tweeted that I was repulsive just to get me going? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, literally, that's what we used to do on Tough Crowd, right? I'm literally the person who broke up the fight between Geraldo and Dennis Leary on Tough Crowd. I have been trained my entire career, like with men. I've been around men fighting and screaming, and so I'm ready for this. So, okay, so what's the problem? So we're going to talk about the topics, but the problem, how do you experience the problem today? First of all, from a man-woman standpoint, like with the Me Too movement, how is it coming? How is it entering your psyche, your world?
Well, I was happy to meet, not for the experiences, but the Me Too movement needed to happen because it was beyond sexual harassment. It's about abuse of power, which is everywhere. So all of those women that came out and the men too, whoever, it needed to happen because it's so many people out there that's insecure. And when you merge insecurity with power, it's a bad mix. I mean, look at your president. He's a perfect example of that. A child with a lot of power and a big job.
Right. Okay. And so I'm going to speak. We're still talking about what you're talking about. So I'm going to speak to the people who believe in the president, or the guys. I have tons and tons. I've had so many conversations with men, Trump supporters, and we've been able to get further than what they were thinking. And the one thing I say to them is, why are you abandoning your critical thinking for one person? So you're talking about.
Right. You're talking about. You can support his politics, but you can't support his character.
Yes.
That's two different things. If you want to go with his politics, that's fine. But if you're going to tell me that he's a good dude, he's a solid dude, I'll tell you, no, that's ridiculous.
All right, and here's my thinking. My thinking is that by Donald Trump getting elected, it actually brought up our collective ugliness. So now we're ready to come in with the love.
It's not make America great again. It's make America hate again.
Yeah, we're really angry, and
it's back up on the surface now. Which I like it.
Yeah, me too, right?
I like outright racism.
You do?
Yeah, it's better because I know where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. It's better to me to see that you said nigga than for you to say it after I walk away.
Right.
So I like it.
That's what that guy's video was about. It's like, let's look at it. Like, and then we'll actually be happy.
Talking about the guy you saw?
The video, yeah. How about him?
He's ridiculous.
Why is it? How did you interpret him as?
All of that is stupidness. I didn't see the part about women get lesser pay? I didn't see that part.
No, I didn't put that video up. But he would. The reason why I found that video is because everybody told me that he was a big proponent of getting lesser pay.
Well, first of all, if somebody's angle is there's a scientific reason for discrimination, then you're already not even interested in that.
Right.
You can't put science in why women get paid less.
Right.
It's just because old white men have been doing this for a long time. You couldn't even vote at one time.
Right.
So what is the big surprise that you're getting paid less? The people that are in power are discriminatory.
Yes, but also my theory is that we project a lot onto them and allow it. We the people. And I feel like divided we
Allow what?
We allow the abuse of power and we play a part in it. We absolutely do. So that
Because
video.
you don't want to go against the power. That's why you have respect for people that go against the grain.
That's what I'm doing.
Say,
I'm going against the grain. I'm letting them say I'm repulsive, and I'm going, I'll do it for the country.
Yeah, exactly. That's you champion those people because nobody wants to buck the system. Nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody, but the people that say, you know what, fuck a job. I'm gonna tell you what's about this person.
That's what I felt like I said. Well, the video did say that we have to be responsible, and the truth of the matter is. So here's what's going on. So the truth of the matter is.
Truth of the matter. That's a funny term.
My truth of the matter. How about if I phrase it that way?
No, I'm saying we don't deal with truth. But go ahead.
Well, my truth, the facts of the matter is, in my little world that I have, a lot of my male friends are getting worked harder and getting paid less. And my theory is, if you want to oppress people, you got to keep that American dream going. You got to pay them enough so that they can live, or they're going to retaliate against you. So this corporate squeezing everybody is going to return. And I feel like people are going to come together. And I hope that we're going to get ahead of the curve by trying to stop this cancel culture by trying to be able to express ourselves. So that brings us to our first topic. So the first topic is the Joker movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of controversy about this Joker movie, and I know that I have a strong opinion about it. So the Joker movie is Joaquin Phoenix is a failed comedian, right?
Yeah.
Who goes mental and attacks everybody, but can only do it with a clown face on.
All right.
Okay, so what's your take on that? I mean, you might not have seen the movie, but I'm just saying the reaction. It's interesting that people having a reaction prior to the movie, which is part of what we have in our society right now.
Right, they saw the trailer and gone crazy, and now they're trying to combine that with what's going on with the shootings. And I saw some people say it's condoning what's happening out here, that somebody, because they had a bad life and then they turn around and start murdering people, that it's okay. That's not it. That has nothing to do with it.
So what's your take on a failed comedian, like a violent movie with a lead male right now?
I mean, it's movies. It's out there. Why should we change what movies we make because of what's going on in the world? It's still going on. That one has nothing to do with the other. The problem is mental health.
Okay.
That's the issue. It has nothing to do with all that anger and all that stuff. A lot of people need help mentally, but we dismiss that and we call them crazy or something. And really, we should be saying they just need some help.
Okay, so then that's what I'm trying to do with my form of entertainment. That's what I want to do. I don't want to make a movie about an angry man. I want to do this show I want to see if there's a place for me to live alongside of that. I'm not trying to get rid of all the guys. I'm trying to see if there's a way, because in the entertainment world, I have experienced that the men decide what goes on TV and in the movies. And that's definitely, I mean, I was at a pool party with this guy and he's like, Sue, I was doing drugs with this girl and I thought she should have sex with me. And I'm like, why did you think that? He's like, because I saw it in the movies. And I'm like, so to speak to mental health,
How old is this person, Sue?
He was like
5?
No, he was like
what do you took a grown man said a woman should have sex with him because he saw it in a movie?
He was like 40-something years old.
Again, mental health. That's ridiculous. Somebody look in your face and say, she should have sex with me because I saw it in a movie?
That's what he said. Okay, but see, you're saying it's ridiculous, but it's real. It really did happen. So like that video said, we have to deal with it.
Well, he's really ridiculous.
But how do we help him then? We don't care. We just let him go, or we...
Well, I mean, how do you help him?
Yeah, because if he has mental health, you said we had to help people with mental health. So
no, that's just an asshole. That's not mental health.
We can't people... I have to blow the whistle.
No.
Yes.
No, you said you can't call us names.
All right, okay, all right.
Not other people. Get your fucking rules straight.
No.
You could blow the whistle on that?
All right, yes.
Damn. I negated one whistle and got my own whistle.
Physical intimidation. Okay. I like it. He calls it on himself. He goes, oh, that was enough. That was too much. I don't like the other one, but
I was looking for my whistle. I would say I would blow myself, but I'm not going to do it. That's a whole nother show.
Okay, and then the next thing I want to talk about, Chappelle and Bill Burr, their specials just came out on Netflix, which again speaks to I know my own personal thing about that is that that's who they're letting through. And now this is the backlash. They're going to let them through so they can make the money. But you don't think it affects society. Is that what your point of view is?
What doesn't affect?
They're putting these guys through to be able to just be as
do you mean?
provocative. Like Bill Burr's special was like
What
really
specifically you asking about? Bill Burr
anti-feminism, his anti-feminism and his...
Why do we label something or what did he say that was anti-feminist?
He's talking about he's anti-feminist.
I saw the special. What did he say?
He said he's anti-feminist.
Huh?
He said those words.
Yeah, but it's one thing to say something and then we're comedians.
I know, but that's
you
what we're
talk
trying to
about,
figure out
you see
here.
what he says after that. We set it up like that just to provoke people sometimes.
Okay,
in
so
the
let's
setup.
let's talk about
and
that.
then when you hear the actual joke, and I looked at an article and the writer actually said that from the trailer, you thought, uh-oh, this is going to be rough. Because he even said in the trailer, and he said in special, but when they cut it down, he said, this is probably going to be my last time on stage after the stuff I say. But then you hear a special and it's not that serious,
So I want you to speak a little bit more about what you just said about we have to be provocative to be able to get the joke.
No, I said sometimes the setup is to bring you in.
Hold on, one of the audience members said that was mansplaining.
What's mansplaining?
The way you just described that was mansplaining. By saying you got to understand that was a...
Oh, okay.
No, that's not mansplaining because I'm talking about comedy in general. Even if a female comic sets something up that you might think
So
is
people have to
anti-male.
understand. He wasn't doing it to me. He was saying, see, that was good. That was good. We just had a talk.
yeah, it
All right, so
wasn't about
people have to
mansplaining.
understand because he's speaking from his comics perspective of like people are attacking comics right now. So that's what you mean. People have to understand.
Right, we set it up and you hear like somebody will be like, I'm going to kick a baby. And immediately like, kick a baby? And then they tell you the story or the joke is about something that happened, but they're actually not going to kick a baby.
Right.
But then they go forward with the joke, and then you're like, oh, I see where he's coming from. So but if you listen to his comedy, it was nothing anti-feminist about the comedy.
But I'm also not saying that Bill Burr doesn't have a right to say whatever he wants to say, and there's not
Absolutely.
room for him. I'm just saying I want to talk about the entertainment. I want to see if there's a way that we can have more equal to what's coming out, not just the men. And also, but what you just said is what I said about Bill and Chappelle. So they use it to be they just want to make money off the artists. So what I want to do is create the environment where we can start talking about our artistry. Like we are the ones that are the prophets. We are the ones that. But if we are not allowed to do it, if the
We're not
industry,
prophets. We don't predict stuff.
that's mansplaining.
No, we're not prophets. Comics are not prophets. We're reporters.
Oh.
Yeah, we show up, speak about our perspective, but we don't prophesize anything.
All right, I want to know. All right, this is a good time to ask you what the feeling was you were having right then
What?
when I said that we were prophets. What?
No, you said it before, and I meant to tell you we're not prophets.
That's mansplaining.
No, it's not.
I meant to tell you. Yeah, I want to
No,
know.
before when you said it, I meant to say to you, we're not prophets. as
Okay, so this is
comedians.
interesting too. So there's been two instances with me and you where we've talked where you wanted to say something to me to stand up to me 2 times with our relationship so far over the show, and it's interesting because I wonder, does that go on with men and women?
What?
Does it take men a little extra second to see what they were feeling and come back with what they're saying? Like I want to see if that's so we can open the communication because there were a couple of times where you've said that to me.
I won't say see what we're saying, but sometimes I will admit I'll look at something and say, well, maybe I should say it this way. It's going to be misconstrued.
So there's a little fear of the women.
But I do that anyway because I've had that in my entire career. If I say something the way I say it and my demeanor, it's misconstrued. So I always have to think sometimes before how to say this so it's not. So it has really nothing to do with you being a woman. I have to do it in general a lot of times.
To make sure that the way that
it's not taking down some other road that I'm not even talking about.
But I see that's what I feel like the whole world is living in. We're like so afraid to say anything.
Absolutely.
So we're not feeling and we're not
Absolutely.
growing. So we're not evolving because we're so afraid of how the attack people going to receive it. So I'm going to twist myself inside out so that I don't get attacked. And then we're actually appeasing the attack culture. So as a comic, what do you see? What would be more profitable than the culture taking what we say, twisting it just for the quick buck? What's that space in between for the comics?
For us?
Yes.
I don't see a problem for us. We speak from the heart and say what we feel. It's up to the people that's listening to understand it's a joke, or if you don't like it, then like he said in his even in his special. One time he got silent. And he was like, okay, it's okay. I like silence is cool.
Discomfort.
Silence
I like
is
it
cool.
too.
He was like, if you don't agree, you don't have to just laugh just to be laughing or to make me not feel comfortable. Stare at me if you don't agree with what I just said. It's okay. We're not up there for you to agree with everything we're saying. We're just telling you how we feel about stuff.
So that's interesting. So comedy might be turning into, instead of, so that whole celebrity culture of comedy being fast and making everybody laugh at, a mile a minute, you have to keep them laughing. Maybe comedy's going to turn into something else, like more like live theater, where we pause a little bit more, where it's more political, where it's more, where people do feel more. Maybe that's where the artistry is going to go. Maybe that's what's going to happen. So maybe this show is exactly reflective of what's going on.
I hope it doesn't.
You hope it doesn't?
I hope the hell it does not. That's not for us to do. Full steam ahead, say what we got to say. I'm not trying to pause or something because you might feel funny about what I said. That's your problem.
All right, you'd rather keep
pause
going
for
fast.
nothing, no.
All right. And on that note, we're going to pause. We're going to bring our next guest in. This guy, oh my God, he kills wherever he goes. He's been in the game forever. He's hilarious. He's on the road with Tracy Morgan right now. How about a big round of applause for Roberto Vanderpool, everybody? Come on.
What's going on, man?
Hello.
I gotta be on top of my brother Mike. Me and Mike are like siblings, man. We love.
No, we're not like siblings. He's not. Just so you know, he's not
Don't
black.
touch me.
He's Dominican. He has not accepted it all these years. He is Dominican.
The cops, they don't see I'm Dominican. They see I'm black.
They do when they see your license.
But they not even Dominican.
What's up, Roberto? Let's get right into it.
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
know, what do you think about what we've been talking about? I want to hear your point of view.
Well, my perspective, a lot of the stuff you guys are talking about, I'm on Mike's side on a lot of things too, man. As comedians, we shouldn't not change the culture because the culture is changing because it's a trending thing supposedly is going on. We comedians, we've been doing this for over 25 years to make people laugh, even if it's a mile a minute. Forget the pauses. Let's just get into it, man. Let's just be who we are, man. And we're not here to be offensive. You know what I mean? We take stuff and put in perspective of what we see is funny, and we do a nice spin to it. You know what I mean? And if it's malice behind your joke, then I can see why people might be, figure it's a cancel culture or whatever. But we just who we are, man. We just have fun and do what we do. So you know how we do.
I know how you do, but also it's like, it's so crazy that we're like killing laughing. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing to ourselves? This is what I mean. Like, we're playing a part in it. Like, laughter is like spiritual. Like, if we didn't laugh, and I think laughter is the only time in your life that you are actually present.
Right.
And when you have a whole room of people, and they could be from political differences, they can be different gender, they could have fight as soon as they get outside, they spontaneously laugh at something that you say. That's like magic.
Exactly.
And they're killing the magic. Like, why are we killing the magic?
I don't see it. You see it, Mike?
No.
I don't see it. Like,
You're not having any problem on the road with anybody?
Nah, I think we as comedians, like certain things we say, like my comedy, for example, I touch on a lot of ethnic humor. You know what I mean? I speak about a lot of diverse nationalities and ethnicities because that's what I was raised around. So, and I use that in my act. So even that can be like testy because it can be like, oh, is he racist? I'm not coming from a racist perspective. If I speak about a culture, it's because I've been around that culture, and then I back it up. Even if I connect with you with addressing a hello in your language. Like, for example, I'm a Filipino person that's in my audience, and if they speak Tagalog, like magandang hapon, which is like good afternoon. Is an automatic connection, and
Right.
so then I'll spin a
Instead
joke
of a diversion, instead of a
Right.
separation, how do I connect?
Right.
That's what comedians do. We
Right.
connect everybody together, right?
Connect everyone together. And
So our little experiment here. Maybe we will come to realize that it's not real, the cancel culture.
right.
Maybe you guys are on the road and it really isn't real. Maybe it's only on social media that the cancel culture is going on. So I want to ask you about the question. So one of the topics that I sent you guys was about how guys don't want to have meetings with women by themselves anymore. What do you think about that? Would you have a meeting would you meet with me by myself, even if I was in my lustful mode of, like I have on the train sometimes?
Like yeah. I'll move.
Like a button you hit. In lust mode.
I know.
My lustful mode sometimes.
And I'm glad Sue said that because it's true. Like women have a lot of desires like how men do, and even another level. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
it's just like it seems hidden because it's the way society puts it. Like, oh, men are the horny creatures, but women have that same horniness I see. And then, but to answer your question, if we in the room, I'll come in now. I'm coming in like how we used to come up with our hands up. Everywhere we see some cops, I'll be like, hey, girl, put my hands up. We just go to have this conversation like this throughout my whole conversation. But now, all jokes aside, I don't mind it. You know what I mean? It is sad, but I don't mind having the conversation because I know me. Like, there's certain people that cannot control themselves, and like Mike said earlier about men in power, and then you have people that are insecure, and then they'll take advantage of that. It's like a pedophile. They take advantage. The guy that just killed himself, and he took advantage of young girls and their youth and their naiveness and innocence. So that to me is a no-no. That to me is but like if you're secure with yourself and you're in control, I've had women attack me. You know what I'm saying?
It's impulse control. It is about impulse control. But if we don't allow people to feel, then they're not going to have impulse control. So one of the things that a lot of guys ask me is now they're like, Sue, what's creepy? Right. Everybody feels creepy because they're like, oh my God, have I ever done anything? And I guess you spoke to it. Same with the comedy. It's intent.
Right.
Right. And then another guy, he brought up another point of view to me. He's like, Sue, my friend has really bad social anxiety. Mm-hmm. He goes, so when he's around women, he acts awkward and they interpret it as creepy. And I'm like, no one ever talked about that. And he's like, so I'm trying to help my friend to mimic my behavior so he's not as creepy so that he can talk to women. And then it speaks to the idea of everybody saying these men that get rejected by women that have anger. It's like, well, why don't we listen a little bit? Why don't we say like, oh, is it social anxiety? Let's have people talk. What is creepy?
Right.
What's creepy to me is not creepy to all women. And you spoke about that.
That's a good point.
Right? We're not all the same. We're not all, if we put a little air in there. I have this guy friend, and all he says to me all the time is, so breathe that air. And what he's telling me is get the bug out of my ass.
Right.
Stop being so uptight. Stop being so worried. And just listen. Just breathe a little bit. Just pay attention and talk a little bit. Okay, some guys are creepy to me. Some guys touch me. I had a guy grab my ass. I was waiting to go on at Gotham. We were standing there, and he literally grabbed my bum.
See, that's
He's like, Sue, I said, what are you doing? He goes, I wanted to do that for a long time.
Wow.
I said, you can't just do it because you want to.
And then to have a justification for it.
Right.
Yeah, because he wanted to do it for a long time.
I still wanted to do that.
Thank you, Sue.
You should have still not done it.
Yeah,
so it's impulse control. But if we start talking about it a little bit more instead of shaming, nobody grows in shame. So maybe if we just start talking about it a little bit, maybe if we start bringing a little light to that, that's what I want to do with the show.
Or we should have labels on us. You know what I'm saying? Like
I am very risque, right?
Like you open up your shirt, like, hey, I have anxiety issues.
I have anxiety issues.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm creepy.
Now you know where you're coming into.
Hey, Jim.
Right?
Then you know what you get.
Yeah, well, but like, listen, I can't change this. That's what I started the show with. Like, I can't change my laugh. Some people be like, look I can't change this.
We need nutrition fact jeans now with all that stuff on it. So
hilarious.
That was a great point, though.
Yeah.
Because some people are socially awkward.
Yes.
And that's all it is. It's not
Introverts.
creepy at all. It's just they don't know how to talk to people. Right. They don't know how to be. They're nervous when they get around people. Mm-hmm. So you do have to take that into account.
That's all I want to do. I just want to put that space in between speaking and cancel with like considering maybe. Like I would love in the last segment to talk about what we talked about here, if you're all right with it before the show, about what I was label I was using, if you will. But I don't know if you'll let me. But right now I'm going to.
What you want to do?
All right. So I want to talk about
Simmer
that.
Down.
Okay, good.
Simmer down.
Simmer down. See, you know what's so cool is everybody's realizing that I'm not going to attack them, and it's like, oh, and all of a sudden everybody can breathe a tiny bit, and it's like, oh, we might be onto something here. All right, this next guest. How long have I known this guy? I don't know, probably the same, right? How many? 20 years, yeah. He's hilarious.
Not 25.
He's 20. Everybody, the guys are worried about their age. All right, this next guy, I love him. He's hilarious. He's a regular here. John Fish, everybody. Come on, let him know. John Fish.
We love John.
Fish. Hey, when you play it back, you're going to hear what you said. You said this next gay.
Right.
I did?
Yeah, you said this next gay. Yes, you did.
I was
No.
thinking because it's been 20 years that I
Ask
wanted to
him.
grab your ass.
You wanted to grab my ass. You have the
I
impulse.
apologize for
But
doing
wouldn't that be funny if like you were like, Sue, I really want to grab your ass right now, and I was like, okay. Wouldn't that take all the like? Or if I was like, yeah, I'm not up for that right now. And on Wednesday, I might not be up for it, and on Thursday, I might be up for it. And so it's like this idea. And so many guys, like I'm like, just ask somebody if you want to hug them. Can I have a hug? But
That's creepy.
Why?
Hey, can I have a hug?
Right. It's the intent. It's the intent.
It's the intent. Right. Do you want to hug me to dry hump me, or do you want to hug me just to hug me? That's
A joker hug.
That's creepy.
So we're doing a test tube to find out what's creepy. All right, John. So I want to know what your take is on the, first of all, on, of course, Burr, because I would imagine you have an opinion on that. Did you watch the special?
I did watch a special.
What do you think?
I just don't like the way everything's like, yes or no, right or wrong. It's like no one gets 100. You know, I didn't agree with everything he was coming at, but I watched the special and it's funny to me. And if I didn't agree with something, I went to the next joke.
Exactly. So that's
is that?
exactly what I'm talking about here.
That's
Is
what
like,
we were
why?
talking about
Who's perfect? I don't even know. Even if you're married to somebody, do you like everything they do? There's no way. So DNA, the way DNA works, is it goes through and it finds the positive cells and then it builds on itself. And I'm like, okay, well, why instead of when something happens, finding the fear and building on that? What if something bad happens? What happened with 9/11? Something horrible happened, and then we found the love, and you build on that instead. So that's what you're saying. Bill, we should have just breathe that air a little bit. Like Bill's allowed to have his thing, and I am still going to stick to my thing where I think that women should be able to have their own specialties as well. I think the men still get much more of an advantage. I'm not going to waver on that, but I'm not going to say Bill shouldn't be able to say what he wants to say just because I'm at a disadvantage in the industry. I just want to be positive and move myself forward and also consider others, which is why the show was here. And what do you think about the Joker, about the way they're reacting to the Joker before it's even happened? Also, it's hilarious that he's a failed comic. I mean, come on. How many club owners have failed comics that
That's just
torture
what
us?
we need.
Seriously.
Right.
More people to hate comics.
I know,
now.
right? Yes, that's what they're doing. The comics are like, what do you mean? We're just trying to make you laugh.
Everybody getting there. Even the Joker.
Because they don't want the people, because that's how they can oppress the people when everybody's angry and fighting. So the comics are making people laugh. They're like, get rid of it. Get rid of it.
I mean, I'm still thinking about Chappelle too and Burr. I think. Sorry to back up, but
That's okay.
with Burr and Chappelle always does that thing where, like, when he knows he's
Got it.
pushing it, he like bangs his
Randomize
knee a little bit, you know.
So he has like a tell.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like a towel, like
It's a
poker.
towel, yeah.
Right? Yeah,
And
that's
Burr, I never really heard Burr chuckling like he did on that one, you know, kind of like, but all right, I'll move on.
But they're being provocative
I
on
noticed that, too.
purpose.
Yeah, I've never
He
met him.
never does that a lot. I thought that was very interesting. He did a lot of that. I've never seen him do that.
I know you might
He's-
not like this.
And he's enjoying it. So he's
Yes.
going, he's
Yes.
pushing
We
his,
enjoy those though.
Yes.
Those are the best ones.
when people push the envelope.
Oh, as a comic, you know when the crowd goes, oh, I feed off of that.
Right.
Tell people, because they don't know
care
what
about your awe. This is what I'm saying. All right? You don't have to. Your awe tells me you don't agree with it, but that's not gonna make me go, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
I'm really glad I said it now.
Right, and so don't you think that people need to watch comics do that, because they're always taken that we don't fall down from the cancel culture. If somebody heckles us, we don't fall over. We just wait, and then we use our artistry to be able to handle it. I mean, I had a guy one time, he got up to go to the bathroom, and he had his finger the whole time, walked all the way across the room, giving me the finger, and I just waited, and I waited, and I waited, and the audience was so scared. And I go, dude, that makes me more attracted to you. And the whole crowd.
Power away.
Yes, and he even
Suck
laughed.
the head all away from
He
me.
even laughed, and it's like people are watching us not do the cancel culture. People are watching us, and so if we attack comics, we're attacking love. We're attacking humor. We're attacking any light or any hope that we have. So
Yeah, and that's the fun part. I remember Louis was talking about something on stage, I think at that like a Carlin tribute or something, when he was talking about how he started getting a different laugh. He was outside the Kowloon.
in Saugus, yeah, the color.
trying to hating his act, but he was crushing. But like, you know, so he went inside and started talking more openly, and he called his kids an asshole or something. It was like the first time, because I remember seeing that for the first time, and it was like a different laugh. You know,
Meaning a provocative laugh.
Yeah, like
He's being provocative.
You
You're going underneath the surface.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, because you even with the funny stuff you're talking about being funny, banging out the jokes, but when you cut underneath that surface, it's like now you're hitting a whole other level of artistry. It's like you're Picasso in it now. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna add these colors, and it might look crazy, but yeah, that other laugh is like.
And when we do that, it's risky,
right.
because we don't know if we're going to offend somebody, but we're not. We're just trying to get to a laugh.
Right.
And we
that's
have
the problem.
What?
We focused on the laugh. When you first start, you want the laugh, but after a while, if you get the laughs all the time, just what happened to him. He's like, I want to talk about something more than that. I want to get a different type of laugh. I can get the laughs. I show myself I could do that. What if I go a little like what's the Dominican dude name? Berto? If I go a little deeper, can I still get that laugh? And not only get the laugh, well, I feel it's funnier.
Right.
Will I feel authentic? Will I authentically be expressing myself, which is what I think the country needs more
With
of.
full freedom.
Even if you don't like me. Like, if we just twist ourselves inside out all the time, I almost feel like we're not even living in reality right now, because we're only living in the projection of what everybody else is trying not to do to each other. So it's like everybody's afraid of being attacked, but they're attacking everybody. So it's like, what if we just simmer down If we just simmer down and take a moment. So I don't think people understand the level of the artistry that goes into stand-up as much as we're talking about today either. I don't know if they realize how much control over the audience that we have and how much we have to hold on to ourselves and how much experience we can allow a joke to go bad. We can allow the tension to build. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. I purposely do it sometimes.
We make it look easy. But
Yes.
it took 10, 15, 20 years to make it look easy.
But that speaks to life. Like, it's not easy. Life is not easy. Like, it takes a long time to train yourself to simmer down. It takes a long time to train yourself to listen to other people. So if you, I do want to talk about the Louis thing for a little bit because I do. I don't like that women are being interviewed about Louis because then we're still talking about Louis. That I want to be clear of that. I'd rather women talk about their own careers so that they can get out in front of it a little bit, and then we're not being victims. If somebody asked me to talk about Louis, I might say, all right, I'll talk about this for 2 seconds, but then I want to talk about my career, which is exactly what I said to the New York Times lady. I said, we can talk about the Louis thing. I'm like, but why don't you talk about why the women don't have as equal as opportunities as Louis had? And Louis built his career on the way he behaved. So there's some reality to that. Like, everybody was okay until he did what he did. And then he apologized. So then it's like, I think the big question now is, where's the line? Like, where, are they going to let them just come back and be crazy because nobody's letting them do anything? Or are we going to open it up and have a little air in it? How do you feel about what happened to Louis?
Well, I think what you were kind of talking about right there, I would add on that take out the person. Because when everybody wants to talk about Louis and we're focusing too much on him at this point and what some people think he did and what he did, it's the behaviors that people are worried about. Mm-hmm. Talk about those behaviors so then we can make it a safe environment for people.
Right, like, what causes somebody to act like that? And I will absolutely say the imbalance of power. The imbalance of power does feed it. If there's an imbalance of power, there is going to be, your ego is going to get so big and the energy inside your body, you have to release it, excuse the pun. But he literally jerked off in front of girls, but that energy of like so much power. And so the industry actually does that with the men. It gives, and how many of my guy comic friends have died in accidents because nobody can handle all that energy. But what do you do once you're in the system and everything? And then if you're in the system and then they cancel you, then what are we going to do? And they're not going to just let the women, I always say this, they're not going to let the women through. Like, we have to do it strategically, and I have to listen to men, and I have to listen to what they have to say to me to help me with my career, and I have to acknowledge that I'm on Compound Media right now. I can't just come in here and go, fuck you, I'm going to do my feminist shit, I don't care. The guys will be like, okay, I'm going to take my money away, or Anthony will say, bye, Sue, see you later. So this idea of like just putting some air in between, like, I personally, I know that Louis didn't, I know he apologized. My personal opinion is if he announced his shows, he would be able to push through and keep going.
Sure.
I think the fact that he's not announcing them is causing the friction.
Oh, I think I was not clear. I think because I think what Louis's name now represents more than what he actually did.
Yes, and it shouldn't be like that.
People have accused him for things that he actually didn't do, and because he apologized, they're like, yeah, he did all that stuff. But
right.
We're
almost being apologizing could be a detriment to men in a way too.
Almost copping a plea. You like, you get charged for a crime, but not to deal with the whole going through court. You just want to give me the less sentence. Give me the less.
Oh yeah, the plea out. You plea out. Yeah. You take it even if you're not even guilty. Sometimes you plea out. Right.
So I'm not saying he's not, because but what
put it into perspective.
The extremity of how it's been taken.
Well, I've been trying to pay attention to this whole. I went through the Me Too movement, paying attention to all of it while I was in the middle of doing a TV deal with somebody who was going down for the Me Too movement. I had more pressure on me in my entire life than I've ever had, but I sat still and I watched everything. And I watched the Dave Becky thing, and I watched what happened, and everybody was blaming Dave Becky because he said that he didn't let the girls have their career, and that was the story that came out. But Lee Kernis was their manager at the time. So when I was reading the article, instead of doing all the crazy fear, I was following the love, following the truth, and I'm like, well, why didn't Lee Kernis defend her? Why didn't Lee Kernis defend them? So there is some reality. Yes, women's careers get ruined, but also, why didn't Lee Kernis stand up to? Of course, Dave Becky defended Louis. He was his manager. Why didn't Lee Kernis defend the women? So there's, like we do with comedy, we get underneath it a little bit. Like, let's get underneath it a little bit more and actually talk about what's going on instead of blaming everybody. And all we do is, it's like bully society. It literally, when you make fun of something that somebody has where they can't control it, that's a bully. If I have a strong opinion and you want to come at me because of my opinion that I consciously choose, come at me. But if you make fun of me about something like the way I look or something, I'm fat or something, that's just a bully.
Right.
So what I want to do is have this environment where we start talking about stuff like what you think about Louis, instead of even talking about all the craziness. Like, let's leave the craziness out. Louis become bigger than what he did. So let's simmer down. Let's bring it back. Now, for the next 2 minutes, let's figure out what do you guys see as a solution for us to move forward from this man thing that's happened where everybody's gotten canceled. How do you guys see it? So we'll go, John, you go first.
I think to take the names out of it and say, what is the environment that you want to foster, so that we know the rules and how to make it a safe place.
So we want that's good. And so what I found is, like, I used to be very emotional because men didn't have a lot of feelings. They weren't allowed to have feelings. So I would take all the emotions, and then guys don't want to be around. They're like, I mean, I had a guy at a pool party walk away from me, and the girl was like, "Sue, he just walked away from you." I'm like, "Yeah, he's had enough of me." She thought it was the funniest thing. I'm like, they can only handle so much. I go, he'll be back. And she was freed by watching me be able to know. And she's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, he's got to go in his man cave.
He can only handle so much, not they.
He could only, I did not.
You just put it all of us in one group.
Right.
He could only handle.
I'll blow the whistle on myself.
Oh, that shit. Oh, take
Send
a
the
selfie.
tweets.
Take
Send
a
the
selfie
tweets.
with your whistle.
Get him, Mike.
And the tweets.
Blew the whistle hard.
But he's the same. You know, it's funny. He's the same guy with the movies. He's the same guy with the sex in the movies. So I
he
probably
was.
shouldn't base all men on this guy.
That's a bad.
That will be interesting. So we'll start having this conversation about. So if I could take my emotions down a little bit more, not put all my anger about everything that's happened to me. I've had sexism. Okay, we're done with that, Sue. We're in the new world now. So if I can start figuring out a way to converse so that we can figure out what the new rules are, because I feel like guys will evolve, and we didn't do the feelings. We're going to do a feelings check before we end too, because I feel like if guys are allowed just a tiny bit to say what they're feeling without being. And maybe, so if I take responsibility and I go, okay, even if I'm just uncomfortable with what you're saying, maybe tolerate it for a second, and we can move forward to a solution to try to stop this cancel culture, to try to get humor back, to be able to try to maybe just change the energy with one little thing here. So what while you were at the show the whole time, what was the main feeling you were having?
Hopeful.
See my bracelet? What about you? Roberto, what do you
I
think?
didn't even see it.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's funny. That's connection right there.
Yeah, look at that.
Nah, I definitely see a possible change here, because you have an open forum of how now how you can address things, and now there's a place that people can see other perspective of, okay, it's not just black and white. You know what I'm saying?
Literally.
So I think it can open up. So my feeling of this is I have a vision of gratitude.
Woo! And you, Mike? What do you think?
I say, ladies, when you go into a meeting, record everything. You won't have no problems. You can say, this is exactly what he said, and this is what he did, and then we don't have the interpretations of things.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be smart, right? Or bring somebody.
I'm dead
with you.
ass.
Right.
Hit record.
But he's right. Like, let's put some more rules. Like, guys like rules. Like, okay, some guys, some women like rules. That makes sense. Like, let's reset. Let's simmer down. Let's create some. That's what I'm saying. After 9/11, all the bullshit's over. So, like, let's create some new ground rules. Like, let's figure it out so everybody knows what's going on. And then if you step over the line, then you can cancel them. That's what I feel like. So if we can try to stop figuring out. So maybe that's what will happen. And I want to engage the audience. I want to engage the people that are watching. I want to be on the internet and have them engage and say what they think, what we said they didn't like, and anything like live action community, live action grow. And I have no idea what it's going to turn into, but it's time to go. And I'm so. You guys, thank you, Compound Media.
Yeah.
For all the love to everybody. Thank you to my audience. Thank you. I'm Sue Costello, and we simmered down a little bit. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Good show, Sue. Good show.